Oh, hi. This is Steve Gillmor. This is the Gillmor Gang. It's either the Back to School or I Had a Dream show, according to our producer. I don't know what either of that means. I think everybody's been back to school for a while. But someone is back to school that hasn't been here for quite a while, and that's John Toshek. Welcome, John.
I'm back to dreaming. Good to be back.
Daydreaming, right? Okay.
Yeah, a little funny guy.
The other guy that we finally got back was Keith Tier. Welcome, Keith.
Welcome. I had a dream.
Yeah, I knew this was going to go south right from the beginning. In San Jose, Kevin Marks.
Hi there. Well, one of my sons is back at school. The other one we're taking to university next week. So
Congratulations.
that should be fun.
Where?
And, of course, in Half Moon Bay, just across from the bowling alley and the Ritz, is the Scoble person. Welcome, Robert.
What's up? We got a lot of news going on.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Gigome just broke that Google bought a smartwatch company.
Timex?
No, Whim Labs. Whim Labs. I haven't heard of them ever since I interviewed them, which is funny.
You haven't heard of them since you heard of them.
Yeah, well, they got bought and shut down, but it sounds like Google's building a smartwatch too. I think there's going to be more smartwatches released in the next 2 months than we have hands for.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. More than we have wrists to put them on.
Well, I know Apple's working on one. They have 100 people working on their team. I don't know it'll be out this year, but they better be because everybody else is going to have it out. There's Samsung has one. Nike has a new thing coming out in September that my source says is very mind-blowing. And then Google's working on one. So, geez. Wearables, who knew?
Lindsay Lohan, apparently.
Yeah. Well, and did you see what Broadcom announced this week?
No.
Yeah, they announced a little chip. It has a Bluetooth, a low-energy Bluetooth, so it's the new Bluetooth, not the Bluetooth for your old car radio, and a processor, and it costs less than $10 wholesale, so it'll be $30 retail, and a single coin battery, and it lasts a year. And you put these around your world, and the new iPhone coming out is going to support a thing called iBeacon, and a new world is going to spring up. So maybe we should talk about that. Can Tim Cook use this to get all of his critics to shut up, like me?
Like you?
I don't know. Why don't you answer that question?
I think there's a big shot that he could. There's a startup called Estimotes that I...
Hold on a second. Whoever's... take your hand off of your mic as you adjust it.
It was me, and it wasn't my hand. It fell from my lapel down my chest to my lower regions.
TMI, man. TMI.
Anthony Weiner. The British version. Okay. Sorry to interrupt you, Robert. Would you repeat what you said?
Yeah, so there's several pieces to this. Let's talk about... Broadcom announced this new chipset that will let this little chip talk to your smartphone. And so you could wear this chip on your clothing, and companies can build that chip into like a camera, a sensor platform, God knows what else, you know. So that's one piece of it. So that's like a personal cloud hub. So you're going to be walking around with... soon you're going to have Nike shoes that have sensors in them that's going to talk to this little Broadcom chip, and you probably bought it from Nike as well. That might even talk to something built into your shirt from what I'm hearing, et cetera, et cetera. So you're going to have this personal cloud of sensors and things on you. Add into this these little beacons from company called Estimotes, a Y Combinator company, which was one of the hottest companies to come out of this thing. And I have sort of an early version of it on my keyring. In here is that little chip, and it's spraying a number into the air every few microseconds. And the battery in here lasts 2 years, so you don't have to replace the battery very much. But that can be an identifier for a whole bunch of things. So let's talk about like the Ritz. You could put these little Bluetooth, low energy Bluetooth radios or beacons, to use the Apple terminology, on like the bar and on the front and on the at the Navio restaurant and in the spa. And then when you're walking around with your new iPhone that has iOS 7 on it, it's going to do stuff as you're walking around these things, as long as you have the Ritz app on it. And the Ritz app has to be enabled to see the beacons and do something with them. So if you walk toward the bar, it can do stuff, bring up a new web page or a new display that has something to do with the bar. And I think that's really interesting. That's what the dream of Google Glass is, and this new wearables world. I think so. To answer my question, yes, Apple and Tim Cook really have a big shot here to provide some thought leadership, do several demos about payments and about walking towards somebody else with one of these identifiers and walking through a grocery store or walking into a bar or walking through a museum and having your phone doing something as you're walking through the museum next to these paintings that have a little Bluetooth radio, a beacon on them. I think Apple has a big shot. I'd love to hear what Keith thinks or Kevin thinks of this.
Well, I'd like to find out what Kevin, are you going to say that NFC has got a prayer of a chance of staving this off, given that it has no e-commerce capability?
It's that's nonsense to begin with, because NFC is how you do real commerce. So
boom.
But the point about NFC is that it's an intentional gesture as opposed to things floating around throwing things at you. The other thing that I saw this week was
except Kevin, I saw this demoed with Estimotes where you take your phone right up to the beacon, just like you do with an NFC. And that's a pretty strong gesture when you get your phone right next to something on, let's say, a cash register. And it can do exactly the same thing as NFC does. So I don't know that NFC is that big a deal anymore.
Oh no, it's just it's a question of that. There's lots of them out there. They've got an install base, whereas these things, we've got to try and reinstall them. But no, I think we end up with both, and what we end up with
Apple is not going to build NFC into the iPhone. I don't think.
Well, I don't particularly care because they're a small part of the market.
Unfortunately, they're the influential part of the market.
They're the people with all the money.
So this week, Foursquare showed off their new feature, which is effectively the same thing, where it knows where you are, and because it actually has some useful information about where you are, it can give you sensible recommendations. And I think that actually has more potential because they've already gathered the data. Apple's big problem is that they're not good at gathering that kind of data, so they're going to have to rely on the other companies to use this sensibly, and that is going to be trickier.
Although the Foursquare app was rolled out first on iOS.
Not this one.
Really?
Android notifications.
So the way I think about it is revolutions happen in behavior usually due to platforms becoming huge almost without you realizing it, and then new experiences become possible. So to me, the interesting thing about the iBeacon stuff is it's almost certainly going to be a catalyst for a new platform that doesn't exist today. And the software that we might build on top of that, Robert's captured a lot of what you can do, but we probably don't even know the things we're going to be able to do when that platform's out there. And it feels as if we go through waves of revolution. The simplistic way of looking at it is from the mainframe to the desktop to the internet, to the social internet, to mobile, now to sensor-driven information coming into mobile from around you. And every single one of those has killed companies and given birth to companies. And there's no reason to think this wouldn't be as profound as that.
Right. Well, what I wanted to get out of Kevin, since he seems to be the one who disagrees with everything I say, is what is the economic?
You framed very carefully.
Oh, I mean, I've already been told that I was wrong about two things today on the show, so I'm going for three, which is what is the economic model that you expect is going to actually survive here?
I think the point about this is making the world more marked up, in effect, having little bits of information attached to the world. And we've been doing that, but we've been doing it through geolocation, and through which three kinds of geolocation: through actual GPS, through Wi-Fi signal, through cell phone signals. This is another piece of that gives you an actual concrete signal you can attach to that. We've had the ability to attach local information to Wi-Fi transmitters for a decade or so, and it hasn't really been used very much. So this is another iteration of that and trying to make that idea work again. So there's the challenge with all these things is people have to actually use them and pick up a behavior that makes sense. And the reason that I was interested with Foursquare is that they've managed to create a model to create that behavior. Whereas a lot of these other things, you sit there and go, why would I do that?
Yeah, I agree with that. I felt that Foursquare for some period of time has had much more interesting recommendations for restaurants, etc., because it's tied to the people that I follow, etc., etc. So they've got a Yelp, for example, has got you have to trust on these people who are paid to write comments about places and things.
Right.
The model doesn't seem to correspond to the authenticity of the information that's being transmitted. John Toshek, what's the enterprise case for this technology, and is it going to happen anytime soon, and if so, where?
Well, I think generally, I got a lot of echo. That the consumption model for Bluetooth for low power Bluetooth is going to be greater, and we will see a lot more things. It's going to be enclosed. It's going to be everywhere. Therefore, it'll drive the cost down and be everywhere. For near field communication, I think that's going to be much more of a focused enterprise thing. It's going to be driven up into the enterprise stream a lot more, and that's just the nature of how things work. I mean, they paved a lot of way for a lot of what's going on. I still think it's got its value proposition. If you're using you're doing logistics in the military, maybe you want near field location or communication, and if you're doing like a Fitbit or Jawbone Up type thing, you want something like low power Bluetooth that's connected to a lot of different places. So the enterprise solves both of those. Because as you get to more consumers, that it creates a need to have a bus or some kind of context around it. It has to be processed somewhere, and people have to figure out what's going on. And so the enterprise case for that exists already. No one's really solving it, but it exists. The case exists. And for near field communications, the enterprise case has always existed. It's just been very kind of one-off or something. I don't know. It's pervasive, but we're talking about we're going from 1 million or 2 million or 3 million, whatever it is, devices into hundreds of billions of devices, and that case makes its way for Bluetooth 4, 5, and later.
So the funding model, Robert, is going to be built out here as a result of the fact that what Apple is doing is going to put it in the hands of people who are going to have an economic incentive to use it.
Yeah, an example of this is that that Fitbit, that one that wraps around your wrist, that uses Bluetooth 4. It works on two phones. It works on the iPhone and it works on Samsung Galaxy because they support it. If you have a computer, you have to use a little Bluetooth 4 transmitter. It won't even use the Bluetooth that's built into your computer to do that low power, low data volumes, but micro moments transmission. That's going to be everywhere if with these kinds of chipsets that who's doing it? Marvel? Who'd you say was doing it? Broadcom. Broadcom, yeah.
And
So
TI, people are talking about the different ones. There's TI. There's more than Broadcom, but Broadcom made a big announcement this week. And
yeah, they're the brain in the box, the CPU in the box. Yeah, I
Bro-
mean, that's their mission.
Broadcom makes the chipsets that are in a lot of the smartphones to do Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, NFC, and low power Bluetooth. So,
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
also
those
the
companies
new
are gonna be
peer-to-peer Wi-Fi. That's
they're gonna be
coming along.
they're gonna be gigantic companies. They're eventually they could I don't know what Intel is doing in this area, but they're gonna be gigantic companies.
Well, if you think about, first of all, you have a cell phone always with you, and then let's say you have the Nike shoes, you have something on your wrist like a Pebble watch or a Fitbit or Fuel Band or a Apple watch or a Samsung watch or a Google watch. You're gonna have something on your wrist, and then if you get the Google Glass, all right, that's already three devices, and we haven't even started with clothing and with Memoto cameras and all sorts of fun things that you're gonna clip on yourself.
Yeah, what's that company that's out in Baltimore, I think, is putting weaving the stuff into their clothing already, into the
Yeah.
fabric, and they're doing statistics on athletes.
Yeah.
What's better
I,
than having a
I
coach
hear
go through
Nike has a shirt coming out this fall that'll have a stripe in it that actually powers itself off of your body heat, but also senses things like your motion and your heart rate, stuff like that, and could even have lights and stuff like that. I don't know. I'm hearing just a little piece of it because the people who know about it aren't telling you all that much. What's that?
resistance is
Lunchbox?
futile.
And I have a fatigue science monitor. Everybody's coming up with these little wearable things. It's a lot of fun.
Steve,
What's it?
Steve,
Lunchbox?
Steve, it may have looked old-fashioned, but it was still digital.
Yeah. Did you get that at Barnes and Noble, Steve? I saw in the lunchbox. It's the
I have
Beatles
no
lunchbox.
idea. It's a Beatles lunchbox. You know. Here you go.
Oh, I thought it had CDs in.
Here's your Fitbit right here, pal.
So there's a lot of, if you think about it, the software layer that will make these sensors, the iBeacons, meaningful.
Well, iBeacon is the software layer that makes the low power Bluetooth.
Yeah. So, well, I mean the layer above that. So imagine you're Starbucks and you decide to put this in every store. Somebody has to go and do the work to give meaning to each of the unique beacons in each store.
Yeah.
And the whole software to create that from the Starbucks side probably doesn't even exist yet.
It is close to existing. I knew too much. My next door neighbor is starting a startup, and he's doing it specifically to help a bar owner build the kind of real-time content system that would change as you walk around the bar, depending on what seat you're at and stuff like that. I mean, think about putting, let's say 100 of these emitters underneath tables. And you could, with your iPhone, you would know what the system would know what table you're sitting at. So you could order off of your cell phone, your iPhone, or any cell phone really. Hey, I want another beer, and I want some ribs, and the bar owner will get a little beep on his machine or on his glass saying, "Hey, table 18 needs another beer and another order of ribs," right?
Yeah.
And they'll just bring it over to you.
So that or have you ever been to that natural food place on Hamilton Avenue in Palo Alto? They give you a thing when you sit down at the table. It's got a flashing light on it. You go and sit at your table. It does exactly what you just described. So
Yeah.
the technology and the software for that already exists. It's just that this will low power
It's just-
Bluetooth make
It's
it
just
more
we haven't
ubiquitous.
had it ubiquitously yet,
Yeah.
and iOS 7, because how many people are going to have iOS 7 by the end of the year? A couple 100 million, that's 200 million people walking around, and unlike Kevin, I see that those are the influential people. I go to the Ritz and I see 9 out of 10 devices an iPhone. I'm not, so the Ritz is going to go, hey man, all of a sudden all of our iPhone users have this new capability, and we can provide a better customer service to them. Let's put this thing in. Where right now it's really hard to justify that. There's not enough users, and it's too hard to build a system. when iBeacon comes along, it'll be very easy to build a system like this.
Yeah.
Do you have any lights in your room there, Keith?
They're already on, so it's...
Well, can you turn some of them off?
Yeah, they're kind of above, so they shouldn't be affecting things. Let me go and turn them off.
Yeah, you just got to step up the game, get some $300 lights from...
No, I just am trying to forestall an endless discussion about it in the chat room.
Okay.
I think that's even worse, right?
No, that's actually, now I can see your nose.
Okay. If you can't see
Try
my...
clapping.
Anyone who can't see my nose needs to go and have their eyes examined.
Well,
I do need to have my eyes examined.
That's his way of avoiding the Facebook face detection that's coming out.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Luckily, my brother and you are locked in Mortal Kombat over that.
Oh, yeah. Well, he likes Twitter, and Twitter has spam, so he can stay over there.
I like Twitter.
Just
What's
before
wrong
we
with
leave,
Twitter?
just before we leave the beacon stuff,
Yeah.
what are the spam implications of this? Because there could be really big real world spam implications.
Well, first of all, nothing will happen on your iPhone unless you turn it on with an app. So an app has to load a couple of lines of JavaScript into their Objective-C code and turn on the capabilities to do iBeacon. So let's say we had the Ritz app, and it was built, and the Ritz has 100 of these beacons all over the place, these little transmitters.
So you've still got to do an app
you
install when you get into the building. Was the problem?
What's that?
You've still got to do an app install every time you go in the building. So
No, once you turn it on, it's on. But
if there's a Ritz app and there's a Half Moon Bay Hotel app and there's a Starbucks app, I'm sitting there downloading apps every
There'll be an open table app that handles all of the restaurants that you will. I mean, there's going to be a
there is a
platform
web
side.
call, by the way. I saw it demonstrated on a web page as well. So
Right.
first you have to turn on the iBeacon system to do this.
Yeah.
And then
So-
you walk around
So it's
and
like
you
having
can
to turn Bluetooth on.
But don't you think that Apple and Google will have some OS layer stuff where it's turned on by default in the OS layer for some
No, I
purposes?
think that's...
I think the first time it'll ask you, do you want to turn this
You
on?
turn it on, and then you spend all of your time for the next couple months just,
Tuning it.
blocking people who are too noisy.
Yeah.
Well, it's like when you turn on connect to free Wi-Fi networks, then you realize that they're not actually connected to the internet; they're connected to a interstitial page that annoys you, and breaking the rest of your phone. It'll be that experience again.
The spam implications. First of all, the Ritz isn't going to spam you because that pisses off customers, and people will go, "What are you doing on my iPhone?"
No,
And
because
so the Ritz isn't gonna
they
do
do
that.
this without. I would like to believe that, but if you actually look at what happens with Wi-Fi, is instead of giving you a clean Wi-Fi signal, they put you through some stupid login thing that pisses off your customers, and then it redirects you to some page telling you how to book a stay at the hotel when you're already in the bloody hotel. That's what they do today. So I'm not convinced that restaurants and hotels are actually good at this yet.
Oh, I would agree with you on.
So
That's
6
probably a
years
legal
ago,
or liability issue.
No,
it's a fake liability issue.
Why?
It's just
Whoa,
bullshit.
whoa, hold on.
Someone has sold them a system that sold them this is a liability issue. Whereas actually, if you go to Google's headquarters, Microsoft headquarters, any company's headquarters, they have an open Wi-Fi network you can just connect to when you're nearby because they're not stupid and they understand liability.
You have to sign in to
No,
go
you
to those
don't.
places.
No, you
You
don't.
have to go. How do you get
No,
into
you
Google's
don't.
headquarters?
You go into Google's headquarters, there is a guest Wi-Fi network that doesn't require you to sign into anything.
Yeah.
You go to Microsoft headquarters, same thing.
No, I'm talking about how do you get into Google's headquarters? You just walk in and have random homeless people walking in there?
You can walk around it.
Walk around it.
There's
It's next
nobody
to a
keeping
park.
you off.
The Wi-Fi network bridge is a public park. I mean, yeah, you've got to get all the way down.
Well, then maybe they cut off certain access, but I'm just the liability issue I was talking about was not was
No,
more,
yeah,
it's more substantial. Like if you're a terrorist going into a hotel, the hotel doesn't want to have liability for terrorist actions happening over the internet.
yeah, well,
I mean,
exactly. Well, they don't. So there's bullshit. There's bullshit and FUD that's been used to sell these crappy systems that basically spend all their time annoying
Yeah,
customers.
everyone hates them. I agree.
So
But
anyway,
it's way better than what we had 5
the other
years
point
ago.
is, like 6 years ago, Apple tried to do this with Starbucks. They put a really big push into this. You don't even remember this, 2007. It was a big part of Steve's keynote then. And what they did was, when you went into Starbucks, your iTunes app was enabled to know what was going on in the Starbucks. It would let you buy the music that the Starbucks was playing. It would let you place
Yeah.
a whole bunch of stuff that was there. And they built it out with Starbucks. And, does anyone remember that now? It didn't last more than about 6 months.
You
Because
remember it.
I remember it because this reminded me of
He
it.
bought all the music he ever bought right there.
No. But that's the point. The point is, we've had technical abilities to do a lot of this stuff for a while, and the challenge is not that piece. The piece is actually building the customer interface and the interface that the individual store can use well enough to connect this stuff together to do something useful.
Yeah.
Most restaurants want to have a better website and a better web presence, but they still can't update their menu daily onto their website or into any of these systems yet.
Yeah, and that's what's going to change soon. There will be software that normal people can use to change their menus like that. So when you walk into the restaurant with your phone, it'll boom, it'll fire an event and it'll pull up the menu and let them do things like that. But it won't be perfect at first, There'll be a best of breed pattern, I think, that evolves. But anyway,
Works out was that a blackboard on the wall actually worked better, and that's the challenge with this. Is your competition is not other technology; it's a blackboard on the wall with the specials written on it that can actually be updated by any staff member.
Yep.
Yeah. They're technologically behind. I mean, you can't even pre-order at any place, or it's rare if you can. Just to go down and pick it up, it's going through some weird menus. They're all different. It's not. There's no.
Well, no, you can, but you have to do it over the phone, and they have someone sitting there answering the phone. I've done this in the.
That's not technology.
It's a technology, but it's a human media technology. Yeah, but the point is that's the interface you have to use. I can jump the queue in a key in San Jose by standing at the back of the queue and phoning the desk and ordering there, and then walking over and picking up a takeout.
Right. Yeah, I'm just saying it's not that there's no consistency in the technology. They're behind, and they're trying to leapfrog. They should be trying to leapfrog and to get into these things that they'll have to pay for. And I think there's going to be a slow adoption for it.
No, I mean the challenge is getting lots and lots of small retail places to adopt this, and that's true. Whether even if they're a large chain, that's still hard. If anyone could do it, Starbucks could do it, and they haven't been great at this. The small businesses want to do it, but they're busy making things and selling them, and that they can't devote much of their day to this. So there is a huge opportunity here, but it's an opportunity that's based around user experience more than anything else, and user experience on both sides of the transaction. So it's going to be hard to do. And Apple is good at user experience. I'll grant you that, but they're not necessarily. And I suppose they're good at retail. They've got their own retail stores that could be a showcase for this.
Well, both Apple and Starbucks want to have a direct contact, human contact with people. I mean, that's where the barista training comes in, and the environmentalists, the environmental technology people who go and design Starbucks. And if you abstract that into just technology, then they feel like they're losing something. The fact is, the more that they do it, the more human contact they can have, and it's the right kind of contact. So they should they push into it.
Right.
So just some housekeeping here. We are not moving to Hangouts. So Matthew, please stop. There are a number of reasons why. We are possibly moving to YouTube Live for streaming, but not Hangouts. Okay, back to our movie.
So I'm wondering if the watch that Tim Cook might demo with a new iPhone might be a beacon of its own, and could it do things as you get closer to other people who have the watch on, et cetera, et cetera. It's sort of interesting to think about it from that aspect.
So I got a new phone this week. Have you seen these?
Firefox OS.
Firefox OS phone.
You have to go to China to get that?
No, you can buy them on eBay now. They're like $70.
What does it work with?
It's unlocked. It works with any GSM SIM.
GSM, so AT&T or...
AT&T, T-Mobile, anywhere else in the world.
That cheap one, that Straight Talk or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So what do you think the impact of this is going to be, if any?
I think it's interesting. I think because it's that cheap and it's nice. I think it's another sort of blow against the feature phone. You know, it's a nice little phone. It's not it's like a year-old Android or something. It's got a decent screen. Touchscreen works fairly well. It's got lots of apps because they're web apps, so it's just using the web for it, and it's fairly straightforward to port your web stuff to it.
So, Keith,
I think
what are the smartphones?
But their primary goal is not US, but developing world.
So what is what's the penetration, Keith, of smartphones in the United States at the moment? Do you know?
I believe that it is around about 60% to 70% of all cell phones are now smartphones in the U.S.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead. Sorry, I interrupted somebody. Or
I was just Telstra told me they're selling like hotcakes in Spain, and other markets like that, because they can sell them for about $30 with a subsidy, and that's quite attractive for a lot of people around the world.
What's the impact, if any, of the what was it? Handout, giveaway, callback, whatever the Apple announcement was about iPhones.
The trade-in
thing. Don't you think that's going to have an impact on feature
But
phones
that's aimed at the United States market.
Mm-hmm.
Let's be honest, people who have iPhone 4s are going to see the iPhone 5S and go, okay, it's time for me to upgrade.
Yeah, but I've run out of children now to be able to fob off the older versions. So
right, so now they need to get rid of the old one, and you get the new one, and you start,
Did they say they take other phones as well? Was this that kind of trade-in?
No, only old iPhones.
Only old iPhones. Okay.
Yeah, this is so that there's an upgrade path for people who have iPhone 4s or 4Ss.
All right, another quick question. John Tasha, you have the Nexus 7. You want to give us your report on that? And how many people on the show have the Nexus 7, the new one?
I have it.
Robert?
I actually have 3 of them in my house.
Well, the new one. Or the previous ones?
The new one.
Ah.
I sold the old ones as soon as the new one came out.
Okay, so John?
I think it's fantastic. It's right here, Google. It's thin.
It's small.
It's light. It's it's a 7-inch screen. It's got the resolution is amazing on it. Mostly what I used the old Nexus for was magazine reading, and you'd always have to go into the view text mode, and you don't have to do that anymore. It's fast. The other one, for some reason, started out fast, but over time started to lag. This one's much faster right out of the gate with the same apps installed. It seems like a smoother interface overall. I'd say that there's 2 things that are just not good with this so far. Is that Apple kind of has a lock on the enterprise, and Nexus doesn't seem to making any inroads there. So it doesn't support a lot of the things in the corporation. It does include Bluetooth 4 and NFC for Kevin, so that's a bonus. Design-wise, I'd say it needs one more iteration before this is a home run. It's like a double to me, and one of those things is just it's not a phablet. It's actually a device, but there's this margin that Steve says that has already been written about a few times. But
Dave Weiner wrote about how you get used to the margin at the top, and then when you go back to your iPad or whatever, then you're not using the full screen because you're used to not using it.
So that's not my problem. My problem is that actually, if you're holding it, you just can't do the swipes.
So it's like a
well, you have to use the other hand. Yeah, you can't, it's hard to use one-handed because it's very big.
Right, and so it's not the perfect reading device, although it could have been, because Kindle and Google Play are made. It's better to use 2 hands. So I don't know. It's just.
It's at least as nice as the Kindle White for a reading device. The only the difference is that if you're in the sunshine, the Kindle's slightly better text, but this gives you full color and very high res graphs and stuff. My son's just got my son's school just went to iPad 4s for their textbooks. So he has PDF versions of his textbooks. So I was intrigued to look at those on this and see that they're actually pretty legible. When they're designed, they're designed to be like print textbooks, which means they're very high res print. On the iPad 4, they look wonderful because it's such a high res screen. But this is not far off, even though it's only like half the physical size.
Mm-hmm.
So the density on this is great.
So you think this is I mean, I'm basically, trying to wait until the iPad Mini, but it seems like the iPad Mini may be some months away.
Well, I was watching Google Play movies on here on the airplane. It was so clear. Sound is good. It makes me use Google Play more.
Yeah.
So if you pair your Nexus 7 with this thing that I'm showing, the TiVo Romeo, it's amazing. You can download shows from the TiVo onto the Nexus 7 and watch them on the plane and so on. It's really nice.
Yeah, and the other
How does that
way
work?
is when you connect this with Chromecast, they work very well together.
Yeah.
On the three things that work with Chromecast.
That's what I was going to...
By the way, I ordered another Chromecast. It won't come until the end of October, and I just ordered it a week ago.
Wow.
Really?
So I ordered two, and I have here's the box for it. It's not very clear, but that's how big it is.
Yeah.
It's just amazing. I think a lot of people are going to plug this into their monitors, not just their TVs, but their monitors, and they'll have a pretty good way of showing things. And the resolution seems to be upscaled in a really good way.
Well, the thing is that it's pulling it from source. So if you've got a higher res source, it'll use it. So when it's using YouTube or something like that, it'll pull down the 1080p version if it can. But the other thing is that a couple of people reverse engineer the protocol. So there's an app that will let you send arbitrary things from your Android to Chromecast, and then there's another app that will turn your Android into a Chromecast receiver. So you can send stuff back and forth between those. So that's a sort of marker for where this is potentially going, which is route arbitrary thing to arbitrary screen stuff going on. And I played with the API a bit last week, and it's actually not that hard to actually get it blessed is painful. You have to get your app blessed by Google, then you have to go to your Chromecast prefs and say yes, this Chromecast is allowed to display things from this.
I
So
know that.
There's a
Google
lot of
is
steps
just, they're horrible because they force you to, into their closed system.
There's a closed system thing that's kind of annoying. But once you do it, you can send an arbitrary HTML page to the Chromecast, and you can have signals flowing back and forth. So I was using it to send an HTML5 presentation up to the Chromecast, and that looked really nice.
So what you're telling me, Robert, is that I can't get one now until October.
Nope.
That sucks.
I've got two at my house, and I ordered three, and I'm only using one of them. So if you want one, come and see me.
I do. Absolutely.
Come and see
you
me.
should get one, Steve, to compare, definitely.
Yeah.
Kevin, what's going on with Google and their video standards? Are they moving into a new standard?
Oh, so what they're moving on to they're going to move Google Hangouts over to WebRTC, and they're going to switch codecs from 264 over to VP8.
And what does that mean? What's the impact? Is it going to impact Chromecast?
I think Chromecast is already using WebRTC for the video sending. That's the people who hacked on the protocol. They're already using that. So that's there. The impact is like the usual stupid codec wars, which means that not everyone has implemented VP8. So Firefox has, Apple hasn't, Microsoft hasn't. So it's a question of whose browsers you're using where as whether you can see it. So they're still going to have to support both for a while. But
although it's interesting, Kevin, they built VP8 now into Hangouts to do high-def Hangouts. And of course, the Hangouts client carries the VP8 to whatever machine you put Hangouts on.
Yes, that's true, because they're building it as a plugin. So they're building it as a plugin for the other browser. So that will actually give them deployment in the other places.
Well, if they would open up the Hangouts architecture so that it wasn't just this stream of chiclets across the bottom of the screen, and give someone like Tina control of it, it would be fantastic. But they don't.
Yeah, that would be. They've got little bits of that, but it's not. Yeah, they could do more.
Yeah.
The on-air stuff has some of that.
Speaking of Google, what's the deal with Hugo Barra? And does that mean? And I'm not talking about the girlfriend situation.
He's gone to China. That's fascinating.
Yeah, but the implications are that what's that thing that they are giving away for $100 or $200? The Chromebook. Does that mean the Chromebook is on the rise now? Because the guy,
The firm he's gone to is more focused on phones.
No, I'm talking about what has happened as a result of him leaving.
Oh, you
Google.
think Sundar's
I think that the guy who's in charge
Chromify.
Of both Android and Chrome is now in charge of all of this.
Yeah, but he was already. You know, that happened when Andy Rubin stepped aside. So this may be Hugo Barra saying, well, I better get out and see where else I can go, because that you can look at it at that level, or they just find that people don't necessarily leave strategies, they leave bosses. And if he really liked Andy Rubin and Andy Rubin left, he may have thought, well, time to go to look around. I've got a new boss. I'll look around there. That's a fairly common thing to happen. So,
but also, he has gone to China, to the biggest fork of Android in the world. So there's probably just some personal attractions in adventure and new stuff.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is that our youngest daughter, her class, everybody in the class is getting a Chromebook.
Really?
Yeah.
My guess is that's just
interesting.
There's something weird about the decision making in that school, because my kids that isn't normal.
No, most of the stuff they do is on the web. Then it sounds okay.
I think it's a big deal.
If
my son's got a
web,
Chromebook already. When his PC broke, I gave him a Chromebook I had lying around, and he liked it enough to keep it.
Remind me of what a PC is. I'm not familiar with that.
He insisted on a Windows machine 2 years ago because he needed it for speech and debate, although I think it was actually to get a gaming machine. And then he stood on it and cracked the screen. And I said, okay, here, have a Chromebook. You can use that, and we'll get you another computer. Then you go back to school. And he likes the Chromebook enough. Said that he's sticking with that. But also, the school is requiring them for iPads for the textbooks, because iPads are cheaper than some of the textbooks, which is kind of weird. So he's actually using both all the time. So the iPad is just a reading device, and the writing device is the Chromebook.
Funny that the content creation machine is the iPad.
Content consumption machine.
No,
other way around.
He said the other way around.
No,
the iPad's for textbooks.
What's the Chromebook?
The Chromebook's what he writes on.
Really?
Yeah, he's using that. The school website staff. They got webmail and things. He uses it for writing documents in Google Docs, and then just prints them out or sends them in.
So if they came out with an emulator for Android apps that worked on the Chromebook, would that be a big deal?
I don't know. I said his Chromebook hasn't got a touchscreen, so that will make it harder. The Pixel does.
I think the problem is more fundamental, is that the Chromebook assumes that we're all going to live in the cloud, and the applications are not required. And I just don't think we are going to live in the cloud.
We're not?
We're going to live on the device.
All the devices are connected into the cloud.
They are, but it's a different cloud. It's not the same cloud.
It's not a different cloud.
I think it depends on who you are. Most of what I watch my wife do is email and Facebook, and she would be perfectly happy with a Chromebook. She is very rarely into any app that.
But if you give her a choice between a Chromebook and an iPad Mini or a Nexus 7, which one do you think she's going to use?
The Chromebook has a keyboard, where the iPad, the tablets, she just doesn't like tablets because she's on email all day long and doing conference planning.
Okay. So for work,
I think she would take the Chromebook.
That's more or less my view, actually, right there. Is I think anything with a keyboard is for work, and if you're working, you'll be fine using anything with a keyboard, and if it's in the cloud, great. If it isn't, you need a Mac or a PC. But mostly you're not working on something that needs a keyboard, and in those times, you're not going to use one, either a Chromebook or any other kind.
Is unemployment that high that people aren't working? I mean, they're going to have everything. They're going to use multi-devices.
You know what? I think we're.
You know what I mean.
I know what you mean, and I also know what John
family
means.
in America, the family budget is really under pressure, and we're asking them to buy so many new things. I'm not, everybody's going to get a phone, then you have Xbox, then you have Chromecast or Apple TV, then now you want to buy an Apple Watch or a Nike watch. There's a lot of pressure. I'm feeling it, and I'm in the upper income levels.
You're not normal.
The middle. I'm not normal. Plus, I'm passionate about this stuff.
Right.
But I see my friends, who are more in the normal part of Silicon Valley, and they're struggling to keep up with this world.
Yeah, I think that's true, but I think that people are going to go to different device sizes a lot. They're going to pick the size of the device that suits their personality better, and they'll eventually they'll have to do something that looks like work, and they'll a Chromebook or whatever even if it's an iPad with a keyboard is part of that, and the rest of it they can do a lot of those things with the updates, and they are creating content, taking pictures, creating content, doing videos, video editing. That's all content that can be on a smaller device. It's just that's where the personalization stuff fits in.
Yeah, one of my friends is saving up for an Xbox for his 13-year-old, and he said the reason, and I said, you guys can't afford $700 because they really can't. He goes, the reason is we don't want him to go out on the street, and we'd rather him bring his friends over and play video games all day instead of letting him go to the mall and get in trouble. And so it's really interesting to watch the family planning, budgeting dynamic, even in a family that's really struggling financially, that they're making a purchase like that. But you're not going to see that family buy an iPad and then an Apple TV and then a new Wi-Fi router and then a new TV. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, but remember software? Remember when we paid for software?
And the dongles that it came with it.
That's right. Now the dongles are the thing that we buy at Christmas.
But and that was why I got it. It wasn't really an argument, but I was like, why aren't you guys buying an iPad instead of an Xbox? Because an Xbox is $500. Then you have to buy all new games, and they're $60 a piece or $50 a piece. And of course, you're going to buy 4 or 5. Otherwise, why buy an Xbox? And so you're up to $700, $800 without trying too hard. That's really an expensive purchase for a family. But their point was, hey, don't tell my kid this, but I'm buying this so that I can keep them at home.
Right, and away from going to the movies, more than once a week or whatever it is. Because think about what it costs. You could buy an Xbox for what it costs to go to the movies.
Yep.
Family of 4, it's like what, a couple $100. Popcorn alone is $150.
Well, this is where you have to go on a no-carb diet and then take kids to the movies. That's
Yeah, and we have, but popcorn, that's the only thing. It's inviolate. I'm going to have my popcorn. I don't care what happens. Okay.
What movie are you going to see tonight?
Well, there's an argument about that.
Is Elysium still in?
I want to see the one about the World's End. Yeah,
that's brilliant.
But don't say that, please. My daughter says, I don't want to go. It's about robots.
It is? There's a robot movie out?
At the end.
About
don't give it away. No spoilers.
Middle-aged men and
no spoilers.
robots,
Spoil it for you. Stop that.
Well,
He insists on spoiling. I can see his expression.
Gillmor Gang.
What?
What about?
Drunk middle-aged men and robots. There we go.
I hear good things.
Robot can be the robot.
I hear good things about the new Woody Allen, and there's no robots in it.
Yeah, I heard a bad thing about the new Woody Allen.
That's the Cate Blanchett movie?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I hear she's great. I think we heard that in on the East Coast.
Blue Sapphire or
There was a
something.
bad review of it.
Blue Jasmine?
Yeah.
Blue Jasmine, that's it. Yeah, no, I heard good things about it.
But they don't allow that outside of New York and Los Angeles.
You have to go to a special theater.
Yeah.
No, it's on in the main theaters here. Here where I am in Palo Alto, it's on at Century 16.
You better hurry up. Some of these things I look for now on Comcast. I look in the, same day section to see whether or not they were released on TV first. We're getting there. It's getting very close.
I can highly recommend a BBC series that's just come out on iTunes called The Fall. It's about a serial killer and a cop. It's very good.
So about the band then.
Yeah.
All right, so Robert, anything else that you were interacting with on this heavy news week?
I forget now. So much has happened this week.
Steve Ballmer. Steve Ballmer.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, I remember-
Bomber's still cooking, but we
remember him.
covered that pretty well last week.
Well, except that there's this sort of, is Bill Gates going to be the only one who can save him?
I think bringing him back would be a mistake. I don't think.
I don't think it'd be a mistake. It's just not going to happen.
It's not going to happen, and they need to change, and they need to change deeply. And Bill's not going to do that.
No, I saw Bill recently at the Coastal Ventures Summit. He does it every year. He must be an LP in Coastal's fund with Tony Blair. And when asked any questions to do with modern technology, he was so off base. He just is not really engaged with where the world's at right now. He still thinks that that we're basically still in a PC era. He even thinks of tablets as little PCs.
Yeah. Now they need a complete management change and a new attitude if they're going to stay in consumer. Now, if they're going to sell off consumer, sell the Xbox and something to somebody else, maybe that's. But the problem is then they really doom the company, because we know the innovations come out of consumer and move from consumer into enterprise. I would be.
Well, they haven't done that.
Well, John, what do you think? Do you think that there's any hope for Microsoft?
I think Gates is a great visionary, and more importantly, he has the respect of everyone who works at Microsoft. So
He
if
froze.
I froze.
Yeah.
No.
No, you're fine. You're fine for me.
Oh, okay.
Okay. All right.
He froze on my screen.
Yeah, I mean, he does have the respect from the entire organization, plus most of the world, for what he's doing. So if he could actually get Microsoft to shift, that would be really hard to get an outsider. I mean, what are you going to do to get the CEO of Procter & Gamble to be the CEO of Microsoft?
No. Somebody like David Sachs or maybe
David Sachs,
Elop
come on.
from
He doesn't have
Nokia.
Elop doesn't have enough respect around the world, and neither does David Sachs.
Well, he doesn't have enough respect at Microsoft. I mean, he basically floundered there.
There's a lot of talk about the Skype guy. What's his name?
Yeah.
Right.
I like him. I met him a year ago. I forget his name. Tony Bates.
That's it. Tony Bates.
Tony Bates? Isn't that the guy from Psycho? Isn't it? Or is that Tony Perkins?
Tony Perkins played
Bates?
Norman Bates.
Norman Bates. Yeah.
Sorry for any slander there.
It's the
That
love
was,
child of the
It's
two.
unintentional.
So my business partner, Archimedes Labs, Kambiz Hushman, was at Cisco for 9 years, and Tony and him were peers. And he speaks really, really highly of him, and he thinks he could actually do that job. That he has the stature and the breadth of vision and the operational skills.
Well, wasn't
to
he
do it.
brought into Skype?
He was brought into Skype,
Right,
yeah.
so-
After the whole Index Ventures, Nicholas Zenstrom debacle, if you remember.
Well, except that when Mark Andreessen was done, it wasn't a debacle anymore, was it?
No, and Silver Lake came in. That's where he came from.
Okay, so I guess we're not going to talk about that. What else?
Blue lines on Twitter.
What does that mean?
So Twitter released a new feature that injects
Conversations.
conversations in chronological order into the timeline.
Yeah, that's good.
In effect,
wrong with it?
the way to think about it is it automatically retweets the things you reply to, so that you don't have to retweet them first. People know what you're talking about.
Here's what they look like. There's a little blue line connecting two tweets that shows that's a conversation.
Yeah.
Right?
It's not always blue. It depends on what theme you've picked, by the way.
And by the way, this is an area of intense interest to me. We have conversations, messages, we have comments and messages. It's confusing as hell when you start mixing streams with conversations, with comments, with media.
Yes. So that's so what Twitter's done is quite subtle, because they've made all tweets The other systems have a thing and then the comments on the thing. So Plus has that, Facebook has that. Most other systems, the one we're using here has as our chat room is like that. Whereas what they're saying is each tweet is still a standalone thing, but some of them are tied together. And the way they're tied together are these at replies, and that's been true for a while. You've been able to click on a tweet and full page it, and then you get the conversation around it.
Yeah,
but what they're doing is injecting pieces of that into the stream as well.
So they're trying to basically move to be a messaging platform as well as a stream-based platform. And I don't know what you think, Kevin. I've tried to do this.
They're not, because they've buried the messaging. The messaging is DMs, which they've had from the start, and they've been burying that further and further in the UI to the point now where you have to click 3 things to find them.
Well, when I say messaging, I'm not really referring to DMs, because I think of DMs more like walkie-talkie. I mean conversational messaging.
Oh, you mean like subgroup chat?
Threads, group chat, yeah.
Yeah, that's true. So, but
this is the message context 0.001. It's just so beginning of what they could possibly do.
Yeah.
It looks ridiculous right now. It looks like an infantile way of putting context around a message or a meme. It just makes you ask for more, which is probably their plan.
But it's very challenging for them, John, to get from where they are to where this seems to indicate they want to go. It's a different app with a very different structure. Even the back end, some of the queries they would have to support just probably are not supportable with their existing back end.
They've been having this struggle since the day one. That's why they killed Track, is because it allowed people like me to just start having random conversations with people, which were incredibly frustrating to anybody who followed somebody. So this is a sort of an attempt to deal with the implications of the follow architecture without actually relying on it, which I think is a pretty big deal.
No, I think what they've done is actually quite subtle, because they've created a way, if enough people you're following reply to something else, then that route will be brought into your conversation as well.
Exactly.
So previously, if somebody I wouldn't follow posted something and you two had a discussion about it, I would see your conversation with no context because I wouldn't see the root thing. And this would pull the root up to the top and put the ... and then show your conversation. I can expand the ... there. So I think that's the primary design goal for this, is to make some of those little back and forth things more coherent to people.
Without having to blow up your follow stream, which
yes, exactly.
is useless. So it's
but
a big deal.
But also it is a way of, they're talking, 3 of my friends are talking to this person about this thing. That must be an interesting thing, a person to follow. I'll click on that.
Well,
so
it just takes it out of the, you've been able to for quite a while. There's a little icon next to conversations. You can click on them and just basically use archaeology to figure out and backtrack and figure out what was actually going on. That's been true since the beginning. But this is actually surfacing the conversation. So, Robert Scoble, what do you think is the impact on Facebook? And I guess I know what your answer is.
So far, I don't think it touches Facebook. It's not the same thing. Facebook has a really strong filtering model, which helps you find conversations that might matter to you, and it has a much better commenting system. These things still don't look like comments to me. They're
because
just
they're not
look
meant
like,
to be.
Yeah, but I in other words, I don't see it as changing the Twitter-Facebook dynamic. I think it makes. So far, I like them because it connects things on Twitter together.
It's context, Robert. You should love it.
I love all context. I think. But it doesn't change what I
take it
believe
out of
about
context.
Twitter or Facebook. And I would, the problem with Twitter is this week is spam. Holy shit, was I spammed to death yesterday?
What does that mean?
It was like every 3 out of every 4 tweets coming at me was spam, and it was like, man, they have a deep problem.
Why did it happen so suddenly? What's the problem?
It goes in waves, and I think the spammers.
SEA.
When they put you on one of their lists, something about the system just goes nuts. And several people said, yeah, I'm getting the same thing. So I know it's not just me.
So Miley Cyrus has started spamming just me. She's opened an account and started putting pictures of herself on there. which and we're not paying her to do it. She just seems to have randomly done it.
Yeah.
Which brings me to Miley Cyrus. Any opinions about Miley Cyrus this week? I actually think it's outrageous what the reaction was. It seems like America's become well, maybe not become. Maybe it's been revealed how puritanical mainstream America is, because she
I
did
think
something
that you're
in mind-
mistaking puritanical
wait.
with taste.
Keep in
Yeah.
mind, anybody who gets pissed off at anything is always going to be the loudest voice in the room. And so, let's say only 5% of Americans got pissed off. That will drive a shitload of traffic on every single site.
Yeah.
I wasn't pissed off, so why are you watching popular music anyways? It's going, if you believe that your kid shouldn't be exposed to somebody prancing around like that.
She's not so popular.
That was Alan Thicke's son. Is that
Yeah.
the guy who did?
I
music?
don't know. To me, it's
I didn't see
entertainment.
it.
She got more PR out of this thing than any
The
performer.
Nixon.
For something that none of us saw, this is sure got a lot of information.
Oh, it was
about
on the. It keeps coming to me on Facebook and Twitter.
It's the metadata, stupid. That's basically what this is about, right?
It's
It's not about the performance. It's about the after effects. and
right.
The social stream.
Right. Well, and what she's really done now is reposition her career as I'm an adult and I'm going to do what I want and I'm going to compete with Lady Gaga and Madonna and that kind of entertainer. Madonna has done far worse on stage. I've seen two of her shows and she's always outrageous. She's always trying to piss off the audience and get
She had
people.
content.
Prince.
Yeah, it's part of her shtick, right? And nobody complains about that. Nobody complains when a male rapper gets up and says the most vile things in the world, right?
What do you mean, no one?
Yeah, the same people complain. But this caused a firestorm of conversation.
Very, very
Well, that's because
It's-
she was
yeah,
known as Hannah
Tina-
Montana
Tina-
before.
Yeah, Tina makes
Right.
the real point is that her fan base, such as it is Disney family.
It's 20 and under.
Yeah,
Right.
they're young.
And teenagers don't like her.
Right.
So
So-
she's appealing to 12-year-olds.
So now she got everybody in the world to do their PR, her PR for her, which is, I'm now an adult entertainer. I am not a kiddie entertainer anymore. I thought it was brilliant. I thought, I think everything there was scientifically thought through by her and her team. And in a
Brain
year,
cells are forming.
Yeah.
and in a year, we're not going to remember any of this. 'Cause
Scientists
that's
all
how
over
this
the world
works,
are
right? Your
objecting
mind
to
doesn't
Scopus
remember
characterization.
that she was
It
so
was
outrageous.
deep science. She discovered that men think with their,
Yeah.
not with their brains.
Exactly. And so in a year, all that's going to remain is the patina of this performance, and people will be going to her shows just like they go to Madonna and go to a rap singer's performance.
Patina rock.
Anyway,
And I thought it showed extraordinarily good taste that she did it with an older man as well.
well, and
Robin Thicke.
Dream on, just dream on. Okay,
Frank says Miley's
so
a
proud.
pole dancer now, big career stuff. Yeah, wait and watch what her box office does.
Hey, wasn't some guy forced to apologize for calling her that said in a few years she'll be reduced to a pole dancer? Didn't some rapper say that?
a few years.
Yeah.
A couple years ago, Kanye West or somebody
Let's
like
see. Let's see what her box office is in a year. I bet it goes. I bet she makes double what she made last year.
that. Oh,
It's American society, man. We love to bitch about the people on top.
no one cares about
Yeah.
this.
Well, the
Oh,
only
they do.
What she has going for her is that she has more talent than Britney Spears.
Well,
That's
that's
not true.
questionable.
I don't know about that.
Now that's a whole different
That's
conversation.
a whole. That's
And personally, this is not a conversation for the Gillmor gang. You should come to the Ritz this afternoon and have a
Wait,
drink
let's
with me. and we can
rewind.
talk
Who
about
brought
it.
this up?
I don't
Me.
know.
It was, okay,
Keith
that's
was
right.
promoting just.
No, but I'm a proxy for Charlie Isaacs in the chat because he complained that no
Well,
one.
Charlie's always at fault for
Charlie's
any of
fault.
this stuff.
Charlie's on vacation, probably with Miley. So
What?
Okay.
I just want to see his reaction in the friend feed.
Once around the table, and we're gone. Let's start with Kevin Marks.
I'm not sure. Not sure what I've got. I wasn't expecting you to be first there. I'm intrigued by this blue lines thing. I think it's very subtle, and I think there's a lot of interesting bits in that. I'm going to play with that a bit more. In the blue lines thing, I saw.
Yes,
I think that's interesting.
Okay. Keith.
So we just dropped conversations and went straight for a stream. So I've gone in the opposite direction to Twitter because they don't work together. You can't really have conversations and a stream working together and serve both needs of both groups easily within one app. So
I didn't say it was easy, no. But I think what they've done is actually quite subtle and fits in with their model.
Well, I would just remind you that it's not about individual apps. It's about how individual apps cooperate in the overall stream.
Yes.
Robert Scoble.
I'm looking forward to our contextual world where we're going to be stalked, prodded, studied, and served.
This sounds very invasive.
Totally is. Google Glass all over your face. Apple Watch on your wrist.
Yeah, I think that if we push the two threads together, or at least two of the threads together, I think that Google Glass is going to go out there for a lot less than $300.
That's an argument. I hope so. I hope Larry really is going to lowball the price and really try to get it out there.
If software is,
I'm hearing rumors of the opposite. By the way, I'm hearing.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I hear you, but what I'm saying is that where is the real economic model? Is it in the cost of the device? No.
No, but they're not. They don't have the infrastructure to move to the new model, which is commerce. You know, if they had all these beacons all over the world, and you can sit at a table and order a beer, then all of a sudden this will be free or very close to it.
That's what I'm saying.
But that's I think
even then, Robert,
3 to 6 years away. I think what Apple. I'm going to be watching what Apple does with Tim Cook this in September. Does he show a vision of this future and get us critics to say Apple is innovative and interesting again, or does he hide it and run away from it? I'm going to be looking.
I think the trade-in program is the tip of the iceberg. The trade-in program basically says that the device goes to free. It says that you use it for a period of time. We're monetizing you based on your metadata, and the device becomes free.
No, Apple wants you to stay up to date because they do see that there's going to be billions of dollars in this new commerce world, and that therefore they need to get enough people into this new world and get them to trade up to the new iPhone.
At the same time, it's a defensive wedge, so that because they're locking people into the contract at the time of the replacement.
That's right. Yeah. And what John, you talked about something earlier too, which is it's a suite of devices that you are going to be signing on for. So there's plenty of revenue for Apple in new ones of each of the 10 devices that you need as you walk through your environment and on your clothing, et cetera, et cetera.
Apple needs you also. If the market decides to stay with the old iPhone, that's really bad for Apple because all of its revenue comes off of iPhone, right?
I'm going to make a prediction here and now that on the Gillmor Gang on September the 13th, Robert will move back to iOS due to what is announced on the 10th.
Well, you notice he didn't get a Nexus 7. He's the only one other than me who.
No, I have a Moto X.
Why
do I need a Nexus 7?
How is it?
I like it a lot after using it for two weeks. To me it's a competent phone. It won't get anybody to switch off an Apple device, except a driver. It's really cool to be able to say, "Okay, Google, now call Steve Gillmor," and it works.
Oh, because the microphone's always on. Yeah, we should discuss later.
In fact, I had to just stop the call.
Okay, so last but certainly not least, and it's great to have you back, John Toshek.
I think I said everything. I mean, this wearable trend and smaller devices embedded in multiple different places is definitely that is the future. And the back end side is the opportunity for all of us to participate in on the enterprise. It's just there's no other way of looking at what's going on in the industry. It's coming out everywhere. The costs are going lower on the devices, and if they're going to be woven into fabrics. They're going to be everywhere. They're going to be in light switches. They'll be, I mean, literally everywhere. Thermostats, everything you can think of, they will be there. And the back end services are the place where the investment's going to go to support them all.
And, push notifications bloom with iOS 7. And you've heard from Kevin already, who's explained why, notifications on Nexus and other Google devices are now becoming critically important. So
Yep.
we're entering a real, what was the thing, a golden age of what Scoble's book's about. So that's good for Scoble. It's good for all of us.
When is that book coming out?
November 7th.
Oh, soon.
We
Yeah,
have a
but
big launch party at the Hillier Aircraft Museum.
Yeah,
which
but
is already
I
sold
missed
out.
the window. I can't go.
You what?
Well, didn't you? You invited us like a month ago, and I didn't reply. I was still
Yeah.
getting over the last party, so
That's-
now I can't go.
No, you can go because you're in the VIP batch.
Ooh.
That's why I said it, just to get him to say that. So invite Toshak if you haven't already.
The Gillmor
Everybody on
gang.
Gillmor Gang is invited.
Okay. I want to thank Rackspace, and particularly Rob Legess, without which we wouldn't be here. I want to thank, there's some other things that were part of that. But I want to thank Newtek and their long promised but never delivered. Just kidding. I'm getting meaner as I go. Newtek, they're fantastic. And Matthew Vaushall, you are a great man. And relax, I wasn't yelling at you. I was yelling at what you were saying. There's a difference. Yeah. I'm a delicate flower. I want to thank our producer and director and, basically summarizer of everything that I think. That hand right there, Tina Chase Gillmor. Thank you. I want to thank, welcome back, John Toshek.
Good to be back, Steve.
It's great to see you recovered from whatever it was that you were suffering from.
Yeah, that's going a little far. A bit of an exaggeration, but we've come to expect that on the Gillmor Gang.
Thank you. Robert Scoble, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Kevin Marks.
Thank you.
Yeah, and of course Keith Tier, who's
Thank you.
mysterious in his dark room, Fortress of Solitude, preparing for battle against the impossibility of conversations working with communications.
Exactly.
Okay, well,
It's bringing me down.
I want to thank the folks in the chat room. You're amazing as usual. Charlie Isaacs, keep up the good work, whatever that might be. And Francine Hardaway, had dinner with my brother. Cool. Thanks to everybody who showed up, and especially those who didn't. We'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.